Welcome into the OBR streaming network. This is a brand new episode of All Eyes on Cleveland. What is up, Chad? The chat is lit already. Good to see you all in here. Happy Halloween. It's a Halloween edition of All Eyes on Cleveland. Casey Kinnaman is trick-or-treating with his girls as he should be. So you are stuck with me tonight, ladies and gentlemen, but not for long, because we have a special guest joining us tonight. The one and only Jack Duffin will join us to talk all things capology, Watson contract. We've got the trade deadline around the corner next week. And then there's some things that I want to talk about at the end of the show, which I shall do. And I will answer any of your questions in the chat. Good to see you all in here. Yeah, good stuff. Yes, we do love Jack, always. And he's going to break it all down for us. I've got some, he said that time over there right now, because our time changes this weekend, I believe, right? Because they still haven't passed that stupid law to get rid of to changing the time every spring forward, fall back, whatever it is, right? All I know is we'll get an extra hour in the day this weekend, which is kind of nice when you're grinding to get an extra hour of sleep in there somewhere. But Browns with a massive game on Sunday. I don't think people realize how big of a game this is on Sunday. It could decide, as you know, we're going to talk to Jack about what they do at the trade deadline. Yeah, you guys got trick or treat tonight, huh? Saturday around you, huh, Zook? Okay, so we had trick or treat here in where I reside in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. It's a suburb of Akron, Ohio, aka Rowdy. Yeah, we had trick or treat on last Saturday. So it's weird when Halloween lands in the middle of the week like this, right? Because you've got some people that trick or treat last Saturday, some people tonight, and some people on this Saturday. There's really no Halloween weekend, right? When I was in my younger days, we would have just raged for the whole week, right? Yeah, good stuff. I hope you guys are all doing well. Hit like, hit subscribe on your way in or out of the chat. Tell a friend to come on over to the OBR streaming network where we're doing big things as always. I appreciate your time. My house has no sidewalks, so we don't get any kids. Interesting. You should just put a big light up, Chef, and like a bit, just, sign or something. And then if they make their way up to the door, then they get rewarded with wonderful candy from you. Bradley Bruns in the house. Gregory, Zook, Chef. Good to see you guys all here. So we'll start with Jack Duffin. We're going to go across the pond and talk to Jack about the Watson contract. There's been questions about the insurance, with this contract. Then we'll come back and I'll answer any of your questions. I got a few things that I wrote down, some notes that I've been taking this week. I want to talk about that weird Njoku replay assist call from the game. How weird was that, right? So both teams wanted to challenge the play. I thought he caught the ball. Replay assist called it incomplete. It was really weird last Sunday. We'll talk about the Hamilton interception drop. If you go back and watch the 22, something else was going on there. A little miscommunication between quarterback, wide receiver. Denzel's concussion, number 6. Jameis is the long-term answer. Obviously, we've been talking about that a lot. the play calling operations on Sunday was good. Things were tightened up, only 4 offensive penalties. And I want to talk about, Jed is back practicing. DeWand is practicing. And they are actually, yeah, Bradley, I have a ton of optimism going into this game. I do. And it's a huge game, actually. I don't know if you missed that part, Bradley, but it's huge because you win this one, you go into the bye, and you get New Orleans coming out the other side. All of a sudden, you're right back in the mix. I mean, the AFC is a bloodbath right now. So, and as Juan Thornhill laid out, Browns have a ton of AFC games in front of them. A lot of their losses have been in the NFC. They actually really do have a chance to get back in this big if, Jameis continues to play football the way that he was, and they can win this game on Sunday. Because if they don't win on Sunday, I'm afraid they become sellers at the deadline. We're going to talk to Jack about that in just a moment here when we go across the pond. So, are you concerned as far as Ward with the 6th concussion? Yeah. So, I'll hit on this real quickly before we go to Jack. So, I reached out. You guys know that I have Dr. Jesse Morse on a lot, and there's so many different thoughts. Bradley also thinks the Bengals are going to lose and possibly the Ravens. Same. Ravens guys are a mess on defense. If you went watch this, they blitz zero that entire last drive of the game at Jameis, and he picked them apart right down the field to win that game. And they are a mess right now because they're out without their top 2 corners. They're 32nd in pass defense. You're going to see the 9th best pass defense this weekend in the Chargers. I have some numbers on what they like to run. I'm going to show you. But as far as Denzel's concussion, it's a 6th diagnosis. I asked the doc because I don't know if you've heard this before, but, thank you, Jeff. Hit that like button for sure. But, me and Pete talk about the concussion stuff a lot. And I know there's some new thinking around the concussion recovery stuff. Like if you fully recover, you should be fine. I asked the doc, I said, there's a lot of guys playing with a lot of concussions. Is there any new thinking or new research on this? He wrote me back and said, unfortunately, there's nothing regarding a specific number of concussions. However, stacking effect could haunt him later in life. So the thing about, I do think Denzel will come back, and here's why. He's playing like one of the best corners in the NFL right now. I think he might lead the league with pass breakups, like 12 or something. He's having a career season. There's one more big payday for him to be had in his career. And although it seems awfully dangerous, he's human. And I do think that he said he's done the research. It's his decision to make. But I do think he'll come back and he'll try to earn that one more contract that you probably has coming his way in his career as a top corner in the NFL. It's tough, right? Like a lot of people can tell you a lot of different stuff about, what's going to happen to your health in the future. It's a tough decision. It's a decision only he can make. He says he's informed about it. He says he's done research about it. But I just, I think it's difficult. But when it comes to, setting up your family for life, I think that it becomes a human decision. and you hope that he's fine and everything works out for him. But it's tough. I mean, how could you walk away from potentially another contract like that? So it's tough. Cheers to everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for being here. Let's get to Jack Duffin, the man, the myth, the legend over in England. Staying up late tonight to talk to us about Watson contract, how they get out. We've got details, numbers. We're going to talk insurance and trade deadline. And then I'll come back and we'll chat it up some more with those of you in the chat. Lots of optimism going into this weekend. If you watch, Jameis was better than initially. Like, I thought he was very good. Got rid of the ball quick. Looked great on Sunday. But if you go watch the tape, watch it back again, he was actually even better than advertised in some of those balls that looked like he was throwing, into trouble, or interceptions were the right reads. And you can see why he made those decisions. I thought he looked excellent. I thought he made good decisions. And I think that he can keep this offense going in the right direction. And if he performs like that again, I like the Browns' chances this weekend. So let's go to Jack Duffin. Follow him on Twitter at Jack Duffin. We're going to talk about it all here for you on All Eyes on Cleveland. Hit like, hit subscribe. And after Jack's gone, I'll be back to talk to you some more. Let's bring him in right now. You know it. It's a special occasion when we can get the one and only Jack Duffin on All Eyes on Cleveland to talk about all things Browns, Browns cap, Browns money, and just everything in general. What's going on, Jack? You've been a busy man lately.
I'm good. Yeah, life's busy, but it's that joyous week for me where rather than the 5-hour difference, we've got a 4-hour difference, which means usually at this time I would be fast asleep, but a rare occurrence that I'm actually semi-awake.
Yeah, semi-awake. So we're going to steal you here for a little bit and borrow some of your knowledge. Lots of rumors going on. I was actually just listening today, Jack, and you can follow Jack, and please do, on Twitter at Jack Duffin. I was listening to, so Spot Track does a Spotify. I know you don't like Spot Track, but Mike Giannetti, the guy who runs Spot Track, he used to come on my show years ago, and they were doing for Halloween the pro sports spookiest contracts, right? And Watson finished second. It was a baseball contract that was worse. And of course, right. And but this is like everything we watch on the React every week, me and Pete do. And of course, I read everything you do. So I'm caught up on a lot of the numbers and kind of the way out, the escape route. But nationally, they paint this picture of doom and gloom for the Browns in this contract. Always. It's the worst thing ever. They always have Schefter on. He just gives you the biggest, fattest numbers they can give you, right? And to scare everybody off. So I just wanted to get your time and kind of like, how does this look? All right. So we've got the Watson experiment has failed. Jack, do you ever expect him to step on the field again for the Browns?
I don't expect him to. I could certainly see the route where they go into next season and you get 1 or 2 QB injuries and suddenly you throw him out there. But I don't realistically see a plan where he's out there again.
Yeah, so not in the plans. Maybe like worst case scenario, he's okay. I can't imagine they would put him out on the field again. But like you said, you never know. I but the relationship with the fans, him, the organization, I feel like it's at a tipping point here. How do the Browns get out of this contract? You have to pay him. You don't have to play him. So for 2025, which is next season, what do they do with this deal? And then kind of just go from there.
Yeah. So in a way, money-wise, the dream scenario is he gets suspended. Because if he gets suspended, there's 46 million of cash is due in 2025 and 46 million of cash is due in 2026. And those would be instantly voided with any form of suspension. It could be one game, it doesn't matter. And that clears out. So I would put it at less than a 10% chance, but there is still the ongoing investigation by the league. Maybe they're convinced they can find enough evidence to do that. I realistically don't think there would be enough evidence to void off 92 million without like massive law courts and all sorts of stuff going on. So let's put that in the garbage. Realistically, the best way to manage the cap and everything is to restructure his contract when the new league year starts, or even if they wait further down, it doesn't matter too much when they do it next season. And then you keep him on the roster for a year. And then, it's burning one of your 53 roster spots. And who knows, you might spend the first half of the season on the pup list. But then what you do at the end of the 2025 season is on the first day of the league year next year, you restructure him. And then the following day, you post June 1st, cut him. And I think you've got a graphic here with the numbers for what that looks like. If I could bet on this, I would be betting a sizable amount of money that this is how it works out.
Okay. And so that's the first. So 2025, you're just restructuring him. He eats up a roster spot no matter what. You can tell him to go home. He sits the bench, whatever he plays. It doesn't matter. He's on the roster somehow, some way. You pay him. You restructure his contract. First day of 2026. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Restructure. And then post June 1st designation and cut him.
Yeah, I think you have to do those two on different days. So it'd be, and when I say first day of the league year, I'm talking about March. So March 2026, restructure him.
Year.
And then the second day, post June 1st, cut him. And what that does is it just pushes the money out as far as possible. And some people are like, well, why don't you just do it now? The issue is if you do it now, you need to rip this roster down to bare bones because you can't afford the model they've got of pushing these numbers out. You'd rather deal with that big number in 2027 when the salary cap could realistically be 60, 70 million a year more than it is now. It could be even higher. And so it makes sense to push these numbers out to when the salary cap goes up. And as well, you've got 3 years to prepare for it then. It's not one where you're dealing with that number in 2025. You're pushing that out. And people say, oh, will that stop us being competitive in 2027? No, not at all. Because you can sign someone to a 100 million deal then. You just push that out and that's only going to cost 21 million on the salary cap. So it's one that you can push these contracts forward. And that is the Browns' philosophy. Just keep pushing these deals out. As long as Jimmy's willing to put his hand in his pocket, which we've got no sign that that's going to stop, you can do that. And the other part people keep coming up with, oh, why would Watson restructure his deal? It just doesn't matter. There's terms in the contract that the Browns can restructure Watson's contract at will. That's standard for all Cleveland Browns contracts. And even adding void years. I know of the Commanders started it. The Browns, the Eagles are definitely on it. I believe the Saints would be. You can add void years to these players' deals. So the Browns can just do that whenever they want. Amari Cooper's contract was slightly different. And they had to get his permission. That's because it was a Cowboys contract they traded for rather than the contract that they do in-house where all of this stuff's standard. And the restructure makes no difference to Watson and anyone else. It's like you're still getting the same money. Who cares?
You just get it sooner, right? They're just giving him a bigger, just to kind of explain, when they convert these things into a bonus, you're just giving him the money in one big lump sum, right? Basically.
Usually, not always. Sometimes they keep the same payment schedules. Sometimes they will accelerate it up. And to be fair, if your owner's rich, why not accelerate it up, get that money into
Yeah.
the players' pockets? Jimmy's not going to be upset that he gave the money at the start of the year and not spread out through the year.
Yeah. Okay. And then and so that's boilerplate for the Browns now. Like they sign somebody, it's in the contract. They can restructure and they can add void years at their discretion. They don't need the player's opinion. And it's not like that for all teams.
No, it's down to the smart teams are doing that in all their deals. Other teams aren't. You can't do that with rookie deals. So because the rookie deals are just standard language for everyone in the league, this is just the case for all the second contracts, the free agents, all those guys. So yeah, it's standard language in their deals.
And the main thing here, right? And before we get into the insurance stuff, because people have been asking a lot about that, we're going to talk about, his injury insurance and how that could affect the payout, his cap and everything. But the main thing here, right, is it's about percentages, right? So like, you want to lower the percentage of the cap that he's impacting in each year. And so by pushing it out further and further, because that the total cap number is going to be bigger, that 89.5 in 2027 is going to be a much lower percentage than it would be in 2025, right?
Yeah, we're talking about a salary cap of 255 million this year. We could realistically be talking about 350, 100 million more in 2027. So that's a significant jump that has that knock-on impact. And that 89 million doesn't look as scary then, because there'll be players earning that in a year.
That's interesting. Okay. And then the 37 and the 46, do you know what those percentages are about of the salary cap or your projected?
I'd need to look
Like
it up somewhere, but they're not
12. Yeah,
they're not really
I've
of
seen
note.
it in your writing. Yeah. Okay. So, but they're lower. They're not significant. As far as like, this is the question we get. Would this 37 in 2025 prevent the Browns from, say, Jameis? I've seen this question a lot. Say Jameis plays really well the rest of this season. Could he price himself out of the Browns?
No, there's no level he can realistically play well enough that he can. I would say he's probably, if he plays well enough that you want to pay him as a bridge quarterback, he's probably going to be looking for somewhere in the region of 8 to 15 million. I've got no issue with them going all the way to Kirk Cousins, and they go, that'd be 27.5 million if they traded for him. So, and to be fair, Kirk's probably the most expensive quarterback you could realistically get, because look at the quarterbacks that hit free agency. They don't tend to be that great in terms of, like, we saw Kirk Cousins last year, but that's an anomaly. That's not your standard case. There's not usually any really expensive ones on the trade market. So it's one that they can afford to pay whoever's on the market. And look, if Dak Prescott's not going to hit the market, but if that kind of thing happened, you can work out a route that you can pay him a crazy amount, because suddenly that 60 million that he might earn, hey, is split over several years. You backload it, and Jimmy Haslam puts more than 50 million a year into the team above league average. So you look at 37 million and you're like, that's a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of it, is it? It's not going to break the team in the way some people would think it will. So I'm not panicking. Would I rather not spend 92 million in the next 2 years on Sean Watson? Hell yes. But it's not the end of the world in the grand scheme of it.
Yeah. So, and then we get this. So, yeah, like you said earlier, people are like, why not just do it now? Why not cut it now? Rip the Band-Aid off. You said you'd have to rip the roster up a little bit. You have to probably get rid of some key pieces and some players. What would the figures be if you cut him in 2020? Do you know ballpark what the figures would be if you cut him in 2025 and then did post June 1st and it split out like 72 or something?
Let me see if I can find it. So if you post June 1st cut him, that's with a suspension. So it would be 83 million in 2025 and 89 million in 2026.
Okay. Yeah. So you're splitting that makes sense. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so this is the way to do it because you're lowering the impact on your cap, and you don't have to tear up the roster. Any new contracts that they will be signing will probably be backloaded, right? In a similar fashion to the way that they've managed all of these, right? This is just kind of the way they do business, right?
Yeah, and they're smart enough that if they know a big number's coming in 2027, they'll do the magic to make sure that it all balances out nicely. And it's one that if you do it this way, you can remain competitive in 2025, 2026, 2027. There's no reason with these numbers you can't be competing and making playoffs in each of these years. Yeah, you realistically going to win the Super Bowl? No, but that depends more on finding an amazing quarterback than what you do in these numbers. If you suddenly draft a guy in this upcoming draft that is the next Mahomes, the next even Stroud, any of these guys that are in the sort of top 8, you can compete for a Super Bowl. That is more of a factor than this money. And people always say it's like they spend the most money. Where's the results? And it's like the results are there. They went and made the playoffs last year with 5
Yeah.
different quarterbacks. So they're overachieving. But at the same time, if you don't have a good enough quarterback, I would rather have Patrick Mahomes than an extra 100 million in salary. It's an easy choice for me there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it's all about identifying that quarterback, and that's what they'll be doing now. They'll be taking a hard look at Jameis. Probably, I don't know if we'll see DTR this year anymore or not. It probably depends on how Jameis does. And then the draft class. It's not a great draft class, Jack, or at least it doesn't appear to be at this point. So it'll be interesting to see how they navigate this. And you mentioned free agency, trade. There's all kinds of ways they can go about getting another guy, right? So,
in terms
yeah,
of
go ahead.
the trade market,
Yeah,
Young's probably the most interesting one to fit with Stefanski. People have gone wild for Richardson in the last couple of days, and I just don't think that's a fit for what Kevin wants. Whereas I think Young's going to probably cost more than you want. It's probably going to cost you that late third that you got from Ari Cooper, which there's better ways I want to use it.
yeah,
But in the grand scheme of it, if you sit there and you hold it out longer and that suddenly becomes a fourth, then I'm willing to have that conversation where I go, look, I don't mind taking swings with fourth round picks of
yeah.
quarterbacks that didn't work out because it could work somewhere else. But then in the grand scheme of it, it's why you want to get these extra comp picks, everything, because look at the Eagles. They're able to take extra swings. Would they have taken Jalen Hurts if they didn't have extra picks? Probably not. But give yourself more shots at the dartboard and eventually it'll work out as good process.
It's a great point. All right. So let's talk about the insurance money with the injury here. You sent this over. Can you break this down for us and like, well, I'll ask my question after you kind of break down this slide here.
Yeah, so we don't know loads about the insurance stuff. The NFL keeps it pretty much under tight lip. There's about half the teams using it at the moment. About 75% of them have used it ever. The way it effectively works is owners and teams are able to pay cash in terms of insuring players. That money does not touch the salary cap. So they can go and spend 50 million on insuring players. It wouldn't be that much. Let's say 20 million on insuring players. That's not 20 million of your salary cap budget gone. But if that player then goes and gets injured, the insurance money goes to the player, and then the player doesn't take his wages, and that's how effectively it spits itself back. That it's a free way.
Okay.
It's a free way to circumvent the salary cap as long as you've got the cash to go and do it. So if a player goes out injured, you can claim that back. If you've spent 10 million insuring players and everyone's healthy for the year, it's just 10 million lost out of the owner's pocket. It's not that 10 million lands on the salary cap. So people have said, oh, will the league change it? Will they do that? I don't see them changing it because the issue is it puts more money in the pockets of players. Yes, rich owners can embrace it and do stuff and poor owners can't, but that's their problem. The NFLPA is not going to be like, yeah, let's take more money out of players, because that's effectively what this change would do. So It's not transparent. And I think part of the reason for that is the more transparent they made it, these things are more likely to get changed. So let's leave it as non-transparent. So with Deshaun Watson's insurance, he is insured for roughly 14 million for this season. So he will then get back. It's an approximation of 7 million because he's missed about half the season. So you would expect 7 million of that to come back. So it won't impact the salary cap for this year. It will impact next year where they'll get a 7 million credit. And that will then just give them an extra bit of cap space. So we don't know exactly the numbers. We're told it's 14 million. At the end of the day, if over the cap are writing it, they've spoke to someone within the team.
Got it.
Look, wink nudge, what's the number? And they said around 14 million. I think it's 13.995 or something ridiculous, but that's that number. The issue was the ESPN article that some people read and ran away with. And it said he's insured for this much out of 2024. That number was the insurance that they took out in 2024 for the 2024 and 2025 season. So some people went on a wild tangent and some other sites had some crazy numbers and it was like, oh, they're going to get this much money back. And it's like, that's just not true. Yeah. He's insured for a lot more in the 2025 season. So next season, it works out approximately 2.6 million per game, which effectively, I think is like 45 of the 46 million he's due to earn is insured. If he misses games, and that will come back in the 2026 season, there might be some rules around this, though. We don't know if there's a rule that says he has to miss 4 games or more for them to claim any money rather than if he just misses 1. So that's the one part of the language that just isn't in the public domain anywhere yet. So while we know that the calculation will be close to 2.6 million, there could easily be a minimum game threshold where if he doesn't miss 4 games, doesn't miss 8 games, you get nothing. So it's one that I would expect by the time we approach nearer to the start of next season, someone will have leaked that out, whether it's another agent, whether it comes through Schefter, whether it comes through Rappaport. Someone will leak that out eventually. How many games? What's the threshold? Because I'd expect him to start training camp on the PUP list. But at the same time, we've seen plenty of quarterbacks come back. And if insurance companies are involved, they are going to be doing everything within their power to give him that clean bill of health. Even if they don't want him out there playing quarterback, they're not going to be like, oh, if you don't do the medical, we're just going to keep paying you. They're going to be incentivized not to pay.
Yeah. So basically, just like with any other insurance claim, a neutral or approved doctor by the insurance company would have to deem him injured for those games, right? Whatever it says 2.6 per game. Like the Browns can't just be like, oh, we're not going to play him because we get 2.6, right? He has to actually be injured by and deemed that way by a doctor, I'm sure, right? Through the insurance company.
You'd assume it's some independent doctor, probably someone that resembles the doctor out of The Simpsons.
Yes.
It'd probably be that level of medical expertise to go, oh no, he's 100%. No, it doesn't matter that his leg's fallen off. No, we've medically cleared him. We're not paying anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting though, because you never, he's gonna get the surgery, rehab. That stuff gets tricky. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. How many games he would miss. The surgeon said that they thought he would be back by week 1, and of course they said that about Conklin and all the tackles on this team too, and none of them were ready until like week 6. So you never know, right?
Yeah, and if we just take these numbers of going, hey, 7 million in 2025, and then let's say it was 8 games he misses, that's 20 million in 2026. But I don't know if you can jump back to the previous slide.
Yeah, I sure can.
But suddenly that 2026 number becomes 39 million, and that 2027 number becomes 69 million. And those numbers start adding up.
That's
the 7 million's not a massive factor this year. It's effectively getting like Juan Thornhill for free. But if we start talking about, hey, he misses 8 games of next season, well, that's a significant sum that comes. Oh no, sorry, I'm pulling them off for the wrong years. So 7 million off of this next year's 30 million rather than 37. If 20 million comes off that following year, that's 26 million. So
yeah,
we could be in with a nice spot. As far as I'm aware, he's not insured for anything for the final year. So I doubt if he misses significant time next year that they'll work out an insurance. They'll probably just cut him and eat the final 46. But it puts them in a spot where you can move off him. And hey, if we're talking about 27 million saved out of that remaining numbers there, it's a nicer spot. It doesn't clear all the demons, but it's an extra 27 million for AB to go and spend.
Yeah, it's not nothing, and certainly something to keep an eye on. You're watching All Eyes on Cleveland. Jack Duffin stepping in here tonight. I won't keep you much longer, Jack. We got the trade deadline coming up on when? What day?
I don't actually know.
Is it Thursday? It's this week. It's after this game. Tuesday, Wednesday. It's in the middle of the week. I think it's I don't know, the 5th, maybe. I'll look right now.
5th of November. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So the 5th. All right. So which is that same day, election day over here in the States? I believe it is as well. So that's weird. But anyways, or maybe the 4th. I'm not sure. Either way, my days are all messed up. Doesn't matter. It's coming up after this game.
No, it's all the same day. Election
all the
day,
same day.
Trade deadline.
Yep. Vote, players getting traded. So the two names were here. Cooper's gone. Got a third for him. Good value there. Yeah.
I think it was fantastic value because they're unlikely to get any comp picks this year because they'll be more active in the free agency market than they would. So it makes sense. And to be fair, we would not have seen really anything from Cedric Tillman unless there was an injury. Let's see what he's got. And it's an interesting one with Cooper that, yeah, he had a TD in like his first catch, but over 2 weeks, not really done too much. And it was a common theme for the Bill Belichick Patriots of they were always, oh, why have they got rid of this guy? What are they doing? And we'd have both been happy. I'll speak for you here if they'd extended Amari Cooper and got him for a couple more years because he was a key piece to the team. But getting rid of a guy before he starts falling off that cliff is a really, really tough thing for a GM to do because the fans hate you, the media hate you, and it's not until after and then that everyone kind of forgets of like, oh yeah, we actually wanted our GM to extend this guy, and he's taken the tough choice and gone, no, I'm not actually going to do this. I'm going to be seen as the bogeyman, but I am trying to protect you guys.
Yeah, I thought at the time, although they kind of played hardball with him, giving him the guaranteed money this year and not extending him and getting him in camp at the time, I thought was a pretty good move because then you can monitor how he played. He didn't play well. I don't know if that had to do with him because he seemed like he might have been a bit miffed by some things that went on with the Ayuk trade rumors and all that. So, but he is in Buffalo now. And Tillman looks great. So that's at least last week he looked fantastic. So, all right. A couple of the other names we keep hearing Zadarius Smith, Greg Newsome. Do you think either of these two will be moved by the deadline?
I think what happens in this game will be a factor because let's take Zadarius Smith, because I think he's the most likely first. So if we lose this game, just bin it all. It's all going to hit the fan. So you may as well just sell what you can. So the first 4 weeks, he was up there as a cut candidate after year one for me because he's due to be paid 11 million next year. In over the first 4 weeks, he had like 4 pressures or something. And it was like, we're never going to keep this guy around because he looked like a shadow of himself.
Yeah.
These last 4 weeks, he's been great. And it's something like 20 pressures or something ridiculous over the space of 4 games from 4 to 20. So a massive, massive step forward where you're like, actually, if he plays like this for the rest of the year, will pay him 11 million next year because it's worth keeping him around. So it's going to be an interesting one of kind of seeing where that goes. So if they win, I wouldn't do it unless you're wowed by a deal. But it's one that if we lose, sell, sell, sell. And it wouldn't surprise me. I think if we sent sort of a seventh with Zadarius Smith and got back, oh, do we have a seventh? That'd be a comp pick, but we could work it out as a comp pick. And then we get back a fourth, and I'd ask for Isaiah Thomas because they claimed him off of the Bengals practice squad. It's just such a shame that we don't have Alex Wright, because if Alex Wright was still healthy, it'd be the perfect chance. The same way with Cedric Tillman, of throw him and Isaiah McGuire out there and let's see if they can show anything.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Isaiah McGuire has actually been looking pretty good, grading out pretty well, so that's going well. And yeah, you're absolutely right. So that's interesting about Thomas. All right, so Greg Newsome will be on his fifth-year contract next year. Greg is valuable because he can play in and out. Some teams may view him as an outside corner. Some may view him as a nickel. It depends. I've always kind of thought, identifying his trade value is a little difficult because of that. Like, what does that team view him as? Because he's been good at times as an outside corner, and other times he's been good to mediocre on the interior. So either way, he's a very valuable player in someone's secondary and our secondary. I don't know if you want to play him the $13 million that he's going to get on his fifth-year contract is the problem, right? What do you think happens with him at the deadline, or do you think he's back as a Brown next year, or do you think he's gone either way, deadline or off season?
I think they'll definitely look to trade him rather than keep him all the way through. But at the same time, we were sat here at the end of the season and we're like, look, there's three cornerbacks worthy of keeping around on bigger deals. With Ward, with Emerson, with Newsome. Emerson's not been the same guy this year, which is a real shame. And that's got me more in a position that it's like, look, if you can't get a deal done, do you just keep Newsome, keep Emerson next year and go, look, guys, both go out there and play, show what you can do. Ward's final year of guarantees is next year. The three of you go work it out, prove what you can prove on the field, and then whoever's got the best play will look to extend potentially two of you. The other one can just go a new team, trade, whatever it is, depending on who that is out of the group. So that's probably where I'd be position-wise. If someone wants to offer me a fourth, I'll flip him. Unfortunately, Cam Mitchell's not stepped up. It's the same way of like, if Cam Mitchell was showing something, I'll be like, Greg, you'd already be gone. But it could just be one that Mitchell's only had like a handful of snaps here and there in games. Yeah. And it's tough to judge a corner when it's like, hey, go have 10 snaps in a game, maybe late in the game as well, compared to you're going to be our nickel for the end of the season. Prove that you should be our nickel next season. And as well, we've got Miles Harden, who is on IR, could come back at any point. Lots of hype around him as a slot corner. Maybe he comes back and he takes the position off Mitchell. If we lose this game, sell, sell, sell. I don't need to see him. If we win this game, I don't mind keeping these guys.
Yeah, because you go bye week, and then you've got New Orleans, and you can kind of get your way back in the mix if you got hot, right? So that's kind of the approach, and that sounds right. Is there anybody? So after those two names, is there anybody else that you'd be looking to move?
I don't think anyone's really worth that much, in all honesty. You've got like Elijah Moore a 6th or a 7th. What's the point? Jack Conklin a 6th or a 7th. What's the point? If the season was lost and Joel Bitonio found another team that wanted him and went, look, I want to go somewhere and this is my last spell in my career and I'm retiring at the end of the season. The Chiefs lose their left guard. I want to go there and have one shot of winning a Super Bowl. Before I retire, I'm retiring anyway. I'd have no issue in letting him go. And then you've Dalvin Tomlinson. If someone offered me a 5th, I'd be interested. But at the same time, cap-wise, it makes it easier just keeping him and cutting him. And Thornhill seems to be one that's heading towards the exit after this season. So if someone offered me a 6th, I'd send him. But I realistically don't see that coming. So I think Newsom and Smith, they're the two that make by far the most sense.
Yeah. Well, and now that Cooper's gone, I mean, I guess you could bring up Thrash, but I mean, Moore has played well 2 weeks in a row. I don't know if you want to rule him out yet as a piece here. I don't know. I know I've been a Moore fan, and you know that. So, and Conklin came back and played really well on Sunday. So and his issue is just with health. So once again, the outcome on Sunday certainly impacts some of this stuff. And what your plan is on the offensive line, right? As you transition into next year.
Yeah, what an amazing scenario it would be if all three of these wide receivers now have good performances till the end of the season. You say to Elijah Moore, look, you may as well stick around in Cleveland. We'll give you maybe a couple of years, 1 year of it guaranteed or something.
Cheap.
And then they turn to the draft as well. The Ohio State guy in the first round that, hey, it's apparently a thing. If you draft Ohio State guys, then Browns fans love it. So that could be a wide receiver plan for them where they go, look, we've got Judy, we've got Moore, we've got Tillman. You might be able to pronounce his name. I'm useless.
Abuka.
I think that's the guy. He was loved last year, so I assume he must be good as well this year. I don't watch college football. And then Jack Conklin's certainly an interesting one. He's by far our best performing offensive lineman. It's going to be health related. He's due $15 million next year. Maybe they do a deal where they go, look, we'll guarantee 10 of it and we'll do 5 million of it in incentives. So look, if you miss all the games, you're not going to get any of that 5 million. But then if you're healthy for all the games, you get all 5 of that million. So that could certainly be a route they go where if that works out, suddenly you're in a better conversation that, hey, you've got Jones, you've got Conklin, you've got Teller, we've got Zinter. Hey, that's 4 of your 9. We only need to find a free agent left guard if Joel retires and find a free agent center. And then we can start piecing some more bits around. Yeah, a swing tackle in free agency, but that's 2-3 mil.
Is Batonio has another year left, but no guaranteed money, right?
Yeah, I've said well before coming into this year. I always felt that this is going to be the final year.
Interesting.
Who knows?
Okay. Yeah. The guy on there, the only guy that I would be like, yeah, I don't really care, and he kind of fell in my good graces just talking about their playoff chances this week was Juan Thornhill. But he hasn't been very good. At times he's played okay, and he hasn't been healthy. I don't know what the deal is, but Barry's safeties between him and who did they take before? John Johnson. Yeah, I mean, these guys that he has brought in from free agency, they haven't really worked out so far. But yeah, like you said, it feels like this may be it for him here. I think he's out of guaranteed money, right? I think maybe another year on the deal. So if you could get anything for him, I might do it, especially if you lose Sunday.
The other one person that's not in this list that I floated a couple of weeks ago is Jefferson. I would not be shocked if he's flipped for, it could be like a 6th or a 7th, kind of like it could be future years as well, where we give them a 2026 7th and they give us a 2026 6th. Just because if you've got veterans that aren't playing and they came here with the hope of winning playoff games, you may as well move them on, because it was early on, I think it was the first or second year of Andrew Berry, that he was rated by agents as like a top 3 GM in the league. And it's like, those things are important because if you do well by players, you get that reputation where people are like, oh no, go to Cleveland. Don't worry that, hey, they pay players well. They look after their players. They look after their agents. And that kind of stuff matters when you get to free agency wars, because teams that stick their players, like the Bengals, there was an interview that resurfaced this week with Andrew Whitworth, just talking about how he got absolutely rinsed by them, and it was just a bad environment. You don't want that stuff out there because players talk, agents talk.
Yeah.
You avoid teams like Cincinnati unless you've got no choice and you go there.
Absolutely. Jack Duffin, the very best there is, added our resident capologist at the OBR. Follow him on Twitter at Jack Duffin. Any parting words with us, Jack, before I send you off to bed?
If the Browns win and the Vikings win this weekend, we're chatting playoffs.
All right, let's do it. You heard it here first. Jack Duffin, the man, the myth, the legend. Appreciate your time, sir. Go get some rest, all right?
Thanks for having me.
Big thanks to Jack Duffin for spending his time with us tonight, breaking down those numbers on Watson for you. I saw a lot of your comments in the chat. About no sound. Am I okay now? Check now. Check now. Sound should be good now. Yeah. Good. Okay. Thank you, Jeff. So I was just seeing some of your comments about just got to eat the contract. So just to rehash kind of what we covered there, play him, don't play him, don't play him. You're not going to play him. He was awful. He was one of in this year's week 1 through 7 performance was some of the worst advanced analytics statistics that you could ever find. He was absolutely terrible for 7 weeks. He was the problem. I see a lot of the blame and the guys questioning the offensive line, but a lot of those issues were actually caused by him. The offensive line was not great by any stretch of the imagination, but if you look at Winston's time to throw, going from whatever Watson was at, where he was walking into sacks, running into sacks, dropping his eyes, running into ends, never staying in the pocket, bouncing out as soon as he possibly could. Jameis stood in the pocket. And when you stand in the pocket as a quarterback, the offensive line knows where you are. If you watch the all 22 on this, and they played DeWand at left tackle on a lot of the pass rush stuff, you can just force the guy to run the arc, and that's enough time, 2.44 seconds time to throw for Winston to get the ball out. And that was pushing the ball down the field more than we've seen all year. Winston was very good in this game. The offensive line was much better. One of the things that I noticed, one of the biggest notes I have, is of the places that they were getting beat on the offensive line often was trying to pick up blitzes, twists, stunts. They had a really hard time with communication up until Sunday. And a lot of that is on your running back sometimes. And Ford has been terrible at picking him up. He has gotten ran over. So is Foreman. And so is Pierre Strong. Nick Chubb was fantastic on Sunday, picking up blitzes. He pancaked a guy on one, but he just knows where to be. He's physical enough and he's developed enough in his game that he made a huge difference in the protection. They also, in the game plan, and I don't know if this is, we know Watson had a lot of agency in what they were doing offensively, right? But like, in Watson's game plan, there was not a lot of like keeping guys in and heavier packages to protect. They ran so many times on Sunday where chip the edges and those guys are going to the flats, right? Because of all the, they ran enough motion to identify man or zone, right? Short motions, motion from Judy, right? Identify man or zone and then chip the edges, right? And then the flat. And that helped DeWand, helped Conklin. DeWand was fine in pass protection. DeWand, I think, now Jed has practiced this week, and this is an issue. Stefanski said today he's not going to let anybody know who's going to start at left tackle until 1:02 on Sunday. It should be DeJuan Jones all day long, right? If you have identified, as Bradley was saying, his daughter has more fight than Jet, right? I think you play DeJuan at left tackle until he proves you. If you found somebody there, that is gold. That is a first-round pick you don't have to spend in the future. Listen, he was great in pass protection. He can be better. He's terrible in run. He was terrible in run last year. But part of it is like, it's just the training, right? You watch him time after time on a lot of the run plays where all he has to do is gain leverage on a guy, get to his right side and wall him off, or get to his left side and wall him off. And for whatever reason, when the ball is snapped, DeJuan like jumps inside every time or takes a bad step inside with his right foot every time. That's easily fixable stuff. And easily, in doing that and taking that step that's not needed, guys are coming across his face. Now we're talking about, in whatever his name, in Matabike or whatever his name is from, he's one of the best defensive tackles in the league, but he's letting guys go across his face by taking a step inside that he doesn't need to take. Now, will he get better at that? Absolutely. Can he absolutely protect on the left side in pass protection? Yes. He did it multiple times. Very good. Now, they weren't the best edge rushers in the NFL. You're going to get tested much more this week. But their protection went from there's three factors. There's the quarterback and knowing where he is. Winston did so much for them because he stands in the pocket. He faces right up to the pressure. He works off his progression in a half second, like a professional quarterback is supposed to, and then throws the football, right? I never saw Deshaun get off his first read one time in 7 games. He'll just stand there and look one and then run into a sack or put his head down and try to run. And eventually he stopped even trying to read the field and would just drop his eyes and go. It's terrible. It was some of the worst quarterback play we've seen here in that entire jersey, guys. So we're talking about, if we want to say, yes, there were more issues. You don't go 1-6 with just one issue. It was one big freaking issue. He was one huge issue. He did everything wrong. Yes, you did see 13 personnel last week. They kept more guys in. Because Winston will stand in the pocket and let you protect around him. They played heavier inside, and I don't know if that's because Winston's more comfortable with that, but it's something they did for him and not for Watson. Maybe they trust him to get rid of the ball quicker. I think that's probably what it was. We'll keep extra guys in to protect because we know Winston will get it out, right? He's not going to drop his eyes and run into somebody, right? Just because he's seeing ghosts or whatever is going on or can't process the field. He hit a backside dig. He played an excellent game. And he's made 81 starts in the NFL. He had 20 touchdowns and 4 interceptions when he got hurt in New Orleans. This is a guy in Winston who you have to take a hard look at because he can be your Geno Smith story. He can be your Jared Goff story. This is a guy that you have to, give him a real shot. They have a chance to win on Sunday. The defense has been playing good. I know you're without JOK. Ward is day to day. I saw you guys talking about that too. But I still think this defense has plenty of depth and guys that can step up. They can win on Sunday for sure. This team wins ugly, right? The Chargers win. They've won some games, but they win ugly, right? So here is what we're looking at. The Browns saw a ton of man-to-man this week. And what you're looking at here is your coverage through 8 weeks, right? So the Browns have been known to play a lot of man-to-man. That's why you see the cover 1 and cover 3. So when you disguise cover 1 and go to cover 3, that's a lot of center field or middle of field closed, is what the Browns have been doing. If they're not in man, they're disguising it and dropping into cover 3 most of the time. You see the percentages there. This is EPA per drop back. Look how high the Chargers are. They're 3rd on this list. But look at all the zone they play. It's all zone. They play a little bit, 11% cover one man. So expect to see a ton of zone, even when they're showing man in this. And this is in the scouting report. But if they're showing man, they will drop to zone, and they don't just drop to one zone. Look at they're utilizing cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, quarters, quarter, half, cover 6. They're using all of those zones. So they will try to confuse Winston. The difference is when this is Winston's 82nd start in the NFL, he's seen this stuff before. Last week, just to give you an idea, in 7 weeks of watching Watson play, I never really saw him make the right read on a blitz or call out a protection and make the right hot read. You had Winston changing the plays at the line of scrimmage, identifying blitzes, and getting the ball out where the ball is supposed to go, like a professional quarterback on Sunday. That stuff, that simple stuff, goes a long way. Look at how much better the wide receivers looked. Like you have seen on the React us talk about their separation numbers and call bullshit on some of the the wide receivers are too slow for this scheme. They don't get enough separation. I broke down the separation numbers 2 weeks ago. These guys get open. Judy gets open, Elijah Moore gets open, and so does Tillman now. Winston will find them. When these guys know that they have a chance to get the ball, all of a sudden they're running those routes as crisp as can be. Elijah Moore ran some amazing routes in this game to get open. A huge third down on the final drive that he breaks off, gets to the pylon and gets a first down. Jerry Jeudy makes a huge catch on the final drive, turns around, muscles somebody, dives over the pylon to get a first down. And Tillman was amazing. Tillman got almost blown up on that slant, took the hit from both guys, and kept running to the midfield and then catches that deep ball over the top, which he juked the crap out of that safety, which was a zero blitz. They were bringing everybody. The Browns blocked it up just long enough for him to beat that safety, jab inside, go around him, and hit him on the game winner. So we saw, like, watching them the first 7 weeks and watching Winston and this offense last week was night and day. It was a good mix of Dorsey stuff. They were still using some RPO stuff, but there was a lot of the stuff that we saw with Flacco last year. A lot of the bread and butter Stefanski stuff. And then as they started to realize what the Ravens were in, late in the game, they had some nice little wrinkles. They started to figure out what was beating the blitz zero. They knew they were in man on every play. They were testing them, and they kept going back to the same stick routes, and they were just winning on them. It was a well-called game between Stefanski and Dorsey. I thought Stefanski was engaged on the sideline. I love to see him yell at the he yelled at Bubba Ventrone, get out of his face. I love to see that stuff, right? He was engaged. He was intense. And I thought the operations on the play call was in on time. There was not once did I see them up against the play clock last week. How many times did we see that the weeks before that? Right? Almost like every series, they're up against the play clock. Winston had to play in on time. He was able to audible out of stuff. He called a play himself, audible to a tunnel screen. They just didn't run it properly on a blitz. So really, really good stuff from Winston. If he can remain accurate, they can win this game. Chubb, I also thought, looked much better from week 1 to week 2. So when you watch these guys run, this is real quickly. This is Winston's. Look at this. Like, do you remember what Watson's charts look like? Like, I don't think he threw like every pass in most of his games within the 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Look at these he's pushing the ball 20 yards down the field. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, almost 20 times in a game. I wonder, I'm seeing you guys talk about Wills. I hope they don't play him, and I hope they start DeWan. It should be his job to lose. But I wonder if they'll try to play both a little bit because Wills is a better run blocker. I hope they don't, but we've seen them do this before and try not to tip their hand. But it kind of does tip your hand if you're putting Wills in. You can kind of expect run. Here's Tillman's route tree on the balls he caught. He was amazing in this game. This right here was the first backside dig we've seen all year. And then the game winner over the top. And then finally, I wanted to show this one here. This is Chubb's run, 16 carries, 52. If they block, he was excellent. He was patient. He just understands how to get to the right place at the right time. Foreman had some really good runs too to spell him, but I thought Chubb from his first week back to this was a huge leap. As far as his patience and then exploding when he saw just the tiniest space, he is just, you forget how special he is with his vision until you see him do this stuff. But he could have had 100-yard day if a couple things were blocked up right. I mean, he was close to breaking a couple on this one. So, and to you guys' point, all the wide receivers played spectacularly in this game. So I really am high on them coming into this game just because of what we saw from the offense. I mean, leaps and bounds of a difference. Energy, and Pete, I'm going to steal Pete's thing. Watson was a energy vampire, right? And as they called last year, they called Flacco, I think it was a Cooper that called him an energy multiplier. You're certainly getting that from Winston, as well as just better football, just professional quarterbacking. And I really do think they need to take a good look at him as they move forward, because he could be your answer for the foreseeable future until you draft somebody that you really like. We're seeing it all around the league, not the first, second, third, but like the fourth iteration of guys going through this, the Baker Mayfields, Goffs, Darnold, Geno Smiths of the world that are figuring it out with the more football you play. So that's kind of where I'm at with all of that. As far as effort and movement and just his give a damn, that's why I don't take him out. That's why I don't take him out. That's why I don't put Wills back in. DeJuan, if he gets beat, he doesn't give up on the play. He's still going to try to save it. He's still going to try to push a guy away. He's going to go through the whistle. And I've just seen Jed Wills not care too many times to put him back out there. Plus, if you figure out that DeJuan Jones is the guy, that is so valuable. If he can be your left tackle, that is so valuable. So he's dropped some weight in the last few weeks. His knee looks better. Yeah, Tillman is better than Hyatt for sure. I thought that coming out, as a matter of fact. Hyatt's faster, certainly, but talked about the pass pro with Chubb. That was a big difference maker for me. 2.44 second time to throw. That's it. That's the difference. Conklin played terrific football. If he can stay healthy, he is such a difference maker on the right side of the line. So there's some things. So the Hamilton interception drop was actually a miscommunication. I do think that Moore was right. So if you go back and watch it, you'll see them after the play, and even Moore taps his chest like my fault, but he levels out the route, and Jameis throws it over the top right to Hamilton, right? And Jim Donovan comes down from the heavens and knocks it right out of his hands. But he's after the play. Winston goes right around and he's talking to him, and he's like, "My bad." He obviously thought he was going to take it vertically. If you watch the play again, I think Moore was right, but whatever they had talked about, they both understood that he wanted him to push it up the field, which is why the ball was over his head and looked so wildly inaccurate. Um, so yeah, I think that was there. Once again, I mentioned this earlier, the David Njoku replay assist. I've never seen that before. The wildest thing ever. I thought he caught the ball on the sideline. They wanted to challenge it. The Ravens wanted to challenge it. Replay assist comes down and says it's an incomplete pass. It looked complete to me. It was insane. I've never seen that in my life, and I know that's not how they want replay assists to actually work in these games. I talked about the play calling ops, Jameis long term, Denzel's concussion. Listen, it's his decision. He seems to be comfortable with the information he's been given. I think he will continue to come back, and you guys are right. He's playing like one of the best corners in the league right now. That's where we're at. Those are some of the notes I had. This team, if they find a way to win this game, it's a different bye week, big time, than if they lose. You're at home. The Chargers play ugly football. You can beat them. They're not that good of a team. Yeah, you absolutely can beat them. And they're going to play you physical, but yeah, this is the big one though, because this bye week takes on a whole different shape. If you find a way to win, right? And I think the offense will look good again. Like I really do have faith. I watched the film on Jameis twice this week because it's been the best thing we've seen since forever, right? Since 8 weeks. Tremendous stuff. So, yeah, that's awesome, Bradley. Be there, be loud. If they win this one, you go into the bye week with a real chance to come out, beat a bad Saints team, and be right in the thick of it, and see what you can do down the stretch. At least play some games of relevance in a season that we thought was a throwaway. Why am I so confident they can win? Because I've watched this Chargers team play. They win ugly football, and I think the Browns can score more points than them for sure. So I appreciate you guys all for being here tonight. And I have faith in our defense, regardless, JK or there or not. You've got some rising stars on this defense. Mike Hall. Oh my gosh. Mike Hall is going to be a special, special player. On that last drive, he was dominating, getting in there, pushing, getting right around everybody on the offensive line, pushing people out. Isaiah McGuire is grading out of this world right now. You've got who else on the defense has been stepping up? Diabate has been a demon. This is a guy that went undrafted. He is absolutely been on flying around just like JOK. Watching everything he does, learning from him. But Mike Hall ceiling is massive. I think Isaiah McGuire is really coming along. And also, as I just mentioned, Diabate is something. He is a fine undrafted guy. He is exactly what you want as a modern linebacker, especially a guy to go right next to JOK, man. That is a lethal two right there. And they're going to need him without JOK this week for sure. Chargers D is legit, world's fastest. yes, they can be run on. They're a better pass defense for the most part. But I think that their offense is quite suspect. I think if the Browns could score 24 points, they'll win this game. That's what I think. And I think they will. I think they will. Lot to build off of from what we saw last week. And there's just a different energy from every single person that played on the field on Sunday. So I hope to see, yeah. He wasn't in the drive before. So, yeah, I think they have a really good chance. So, good stuff. Thank you guys for hanging out. Jack, when you see him, give him a hand. Terrific as always, and read him at the OBR. I'll be back tomorrow night for Things I Think I Know with Abby Mueller and Quincy Carrier. Make sure you tune in for that. And if Chubb goes over 100, I guarantee a win. World's fastest for sure. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, tell a friend, keep coming back. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for hanging out with me on Halloween. Going solo tonight here for a while. I appreciate it. Casey will be back next week. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. And I don't want to hear about them bad vibes, Irish. Quit talking. You're talking it into existence. Keep it to yourself, brother. All right. Thank you, Bradley. You guys are the best. Appreciate you all. I'll see you tomorrow night for Things I Think I Know. And keep it locked at the OBR for everything Browns 24/7. With that, I'm going to get out of here. Have a wonderful, wonderful Halloween.